Flight attendant rips off black girl's headscarf. Turns out she's the airline CEO's daughter. Before we dive in this story, hit the comments and tell us your city or country. Let's see how far this story reaches. If you liked the video, please subscribe. She sat quietly in seat 4A, head down, headphones in, wrapped in the scarf her late mother gave her. But then, fingers yanked the fabric off her head. The flight attendant stood over her, sneering. No headgear allowed. It's policy. Laughter. Gasps. Passengers watched, phones raised, but no one stepped in. The girl froze, tears burning. But she didn't say a word, because she didn't have to. 10 minutes later, the captain received a call that would shake the airline to its core. She wasn't just any passenger. Watch until the end. 1-year-old Samira had flown 100 times before, but this one was different. It was her first flight alone since her mother passed. She clutched a small carry-on and wore a soft hoodie, jeans, and the silk headscarf her mother had gifted her last Ramadan. She wasn't flashy, just quiet. The plane boarded in silence. Samira took her seat in first class, booked under her father's account. She avoided eye contact and just wanted to sleep. But something about her presence, a young black girl in first class with a headscarf, rubbed the wrong people the wrong way. The flight attendant had already skipped her for water, scowled at her bag, and whispered to another crew member. Samira tried not to notice. She just wanted peace. But when the scarf was pulled from her head, something inside her shattered, and everything she'd held in was about to come out in a way no one expected. The flight attendant stood smugly, hand on hip, eyes daring Samira to respond. "Company policy?" she said again, as if the humiliation were justified. Samira's curls spilled over her shoulders, exposed to an entire cabin that had turned into spectators. Some whispered. One passenger chuckled. She wanted to scream. But instead, she slowly reached for her phone and opened her father's contact. Not Dad, not Baba, just Chairman. She sent one message. No words, just a photo of the flight attendant holding the scarf and her face stunned in shock. 10 rows behind, a businessman squinted at the screen of his phone. He looked up, then again. Moments later, the flight's intercom crackled. The pilot's voice came through, stammering. Flight crew, please report to the cockpit immediately." The flight attendant smirked and walked away, still oblivious. But the energy shifted. Fast. 2 senior staff members boarded the plane before takeoff. Murmurs passed. The captain exited the cockpit, pale. Then came the announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, this flight will be briefly delayed due to an urgent staffing change." Samira sat still, retying her scarf. She didn't need revenge. She didn't need to explain. Her presence spoke louder than the insult. Because of her last name? Everyone in the aviation industry knew it. Within minutes, the flight attendant was escorted, off the plane. No words, no eye contact. Passengers stared. No one laughed now. The senior operations manager stepped forward and apologized directly to Samira. Not because of her last name, but because of what she represented. Dignity, strength, grace in the face of cruelty. Samira looked out the window, not saying a word. But deep inside, she knew something had changed. That scarf was more than fabric, it was identity. And when it was ripped away, the airline learned what happens when you strip dignity from someone who carries generations of strength. You don't just face backlash. You face the legacy behind them. The story went viral before the flight even landed. Photos, tweets, hashtags, news headlines. CEO's daughter profiled in first class. Airline faces backlash over racial, religious discrimination. But Samira? She didn't speak to the press. She didn't need to. Her silence made more noise than outrage ever could. Her father implemented new sensitivity training across the airline. And that flight attendant? She never worked in aviation again. The scarf, once torn off in hate, became a symbol worn in pride. Because sometimes, the strongest clapback is dignity. How many others have faced this without the power to fight back? Comment your city and country. Below if you believe every culture deserves respect. Share if you've ever been judged for how you look. Take care.